The vast majority, obviously. Mine is that we do not wash ourselves. I keep seeing strange and creepy users on Reddit saying we do not. Story 1. We cannot be victims of domestic abuse. 1 in 4 of us are victims of domestic abuse by an intimate partner. There was a user earlier who made a post in this subreddit and then argued in the comments that domestic abuse against men is not important because it is apparently worse for women. Story 2. That we are always sexually active and willing to engage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sometimes we get too tired or are just not in the mood. Story 3. The idea that men are always lusting after women 100% of the time is false and humorous. Some women are actually insulted when you are not interested in them. Story 4. That most of us are violent or aggressive. Most of us want to be left alone like everyone else. Story 5. That all we think about is sex. I think about how to provide, how to be a better dad, if I am a better husband, whether I am giving my best to my clients, and so on. My whole life since I met my wife has been focused on being better as a man. Honestly, I wish all I thought about was sex. Story 6. That our only emotions are happy, aroused, indifferent, or angry. We have the same emotional range as women. We are just taught by society that no one cares about the others. Story 7. We only get erections from being sexually aroused. I learned much to my dismay, amusement, and horror about battle erections a couple of weeks ago. Weird, but also interesting. Story 8. We believe that 100 people can coordinate an effort to gather on a single day to fight one gorilla. Story 9. We have it easy. Ladies, we are under a lot of pressure to succeed, provide, be strong, and much more. No gender has it easy. Story 10. Men want a woman who will challenge them or has to be handled when they return from work. Story 11. If we get an erection, it does not always mean we are thinking about sex or anything else. Sometimes it happens at the absolute worst non-sexual times without our control. Our penis literally has a mind of its own. Story 12. Most of us have women we love in our lives, and that alone gives us a reason not to hate women. Story 13. Men are less romantic than women. Men are much more romantic. They put in the effort, make the gestures, and stick it out when things are not so great. Story 14. We care about many issues happening in the world. We are often blamed for various forms of oppression and negative views. I do not care about your gender, race, sexual preference, pronouns, weight, or political preference. Just live your life, be a good person, and interrupt my life as little as possible. I am just trying to get by. Story 15. 1. Men are not more violent than women. Women hit men all the time, but of course they usually cannot do as much damage. However, it is not enjoyable to be hit no matter who does it. 2. Men are not mind readers. No, I could not tell you were in a bad mood just by looking at you. No, I did not know you wanted white gold instead of sterling silver. 3. Men are not intrinsically worse leaders than women. One often hears, if women ran the world, there would be no wars or overpopulation. Women are equal, not superior. The world would be just as troubled if Clinton had beaten Obama, for instance. Trump is an exception, but in general, look at Margaret Thatcher. She would bomb a country without batting an eyelash. Story 16. I saw a study that observed the early development of boys and girls. The girls were most focused on social interaction and building community, whereas the boys were more focused on the emotions of themselves and their peers. What happens is that young boys crave emotional intimacy and understanding even more than girls, but are told that they have to toughen up. That maturity means not letting emotion affect you, or that the only manly way to express emotion is through aggression. Men are actually very emotional and crave depth, but many of us have been told our entire lives that expressing emotion means we won't be able to provide for the people we care about, that we won't get that job, that we won't be seen as strong by women, and that even if we do our best at being manly, we will still have to compromise everything about ourselves and our emotions to lead successful lives. This is not true. I don't think the answer is a complete reversal of roles. I know many men who genuinely do not care, and many women who would make poor leaders. But in many cases, if they are equipped to do so, I think the ones building our communities should be women, and men should be the emotional core of family groups. However, many people are emotionally closed off. A lot of men rule through fear, give in to the narrative, suppress everything, and force others to do the same. Many women also bring each other down, talk behind backs, and mothers undermine their daughters' self-esteem and confidence. Soon, everyone ends up resenting each other or spending more time looking over their shoulder than focusing on what is right in front of them. We should be free to lead or follow, express every emotion, or have quiet moments regardless of gender, but our culture is very stuck. People are unbelievably confused. To answer the question, most men do not want to give in to the patriarchy. They want emotional depth and understanding but often do not know how to bridge that gap. The myth is that men are less emotional and incapable of growth, or that they willingly give in to the patriarchy and just want to be big, strong men. We do not. Story 17. We do not like foreplay and just want to have intercourse. I love foreplay and enjoy getting my wife in the mood. Story 18. Oh gosh. I encountered one recently. Every man knows rapists and is secretly covering up for them. Yes, really. This arose from word games played by asking, why is it that every woman knows someone who has been raped, but no man seems to know a rapist? Story 19. That they do not get sexually assaulted. Half the men I know have been assaulted by women, but none of them are willing to tell anyone about it because people would hate them for it. Story 20. Most men are not what Reddit has portrayed them to be. There are 4,000 women-only subreddits, all bashing men. How many men-only subreddits are there? We are not horny all the time. We are not all or mostly all rapists. We enjoy cuddles. We need words of encouragement, but that does not make us weak. Men are allowed to have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or just not be good at something. It does not mean it is weaponized incompetence. I could keep going, but let us be honest. Reddit has a strong hatred toward men. Story 21. There is a myth that men are always thinking about something. The truth is sometimes when I am quiet, there is nothing, absolutely nothing going on in my head. Not a deep thought, not a plan, just silence. And honestly, it is kind of peaceful. Story 22. Just because there is a man in the chief executive officer or president position or a similar role, the vast majority of men are not anywhere close to that level. Nor do they hold any influence or have a connection with anyone. Story 23. We are privileged. Anyone saying that is just comparing themselves to the 1% of men and ignoring how the 99% live. Story 24. They do not listen to female singers or girlish music. That is false. I would sing Cannot Fight the Moonlight by Leon Rimes all day long. Story 25. That we want intimacy at all times, even if we are angry at our partner. No, if my brain says no, then my body says no too. Story 26. Off the top of my head, that we are more of a threat to women than a bear. That we do not know how to raise children or take a back seat in parenting. That we always enjoy sex and never fake it, or that just because a woman is physically attractive, we want to have sex with her. Story 27. That we get everything we want in life just because we are men. I saw that as a highly upvoted comment on the Ask Women subreddit. If that's true, then I want $1 billion in my bank account and my own private island and jet. All those homeless men really get what they want, huh? I also remember seeing someone say on the Dead by Daylight subreddit that men and boys aren't victims of rape, sexual assault, or sex trafficking. And if you say they are, then you're trolling. When I told them that this is wrong and that men and young boys can also be raped and have been victims of human trafficking, I was the one downvoted and called a sexist. Make it make sense. That was disturbing. Story 28. Men aren't afraid of certain insects. I mean, if you live alone, you learn how to overcome that, but most of the time it is hard. Story 29. That being male confers some default esoteric privilege on half the population. Wealthy people have privilege. Everyone else does not. If you find yourself needing to describe someone with an undesirable job and a high school diploma as privileged, you are mistaken, as is your way of understanding the world we live in. Story 30. We are short-tempered, less mature, less caring children, and big spenders compared to our partners. Story 31. Women claim that their men are not romantic but insist that their man initiate romance. They claim that men are not emotionally mature, but when was the last time you saw a man start crying because his ice cream order was wrong? They will claim that men will have sex with anything, especially if they are the ones who are not getting affection. Story 32. I do not want to harm children. If I am sitting near a playground, it is not because of the proximity of children but because of the bench I am on. I am also perfectly capable of watching your child while you have a shower for 10 minutes. If you want, you can let them stay at my place and watch Disney movies for a couple of hours while you go shopping. Yes, people like that exist, but they represent a very small minority of my gender. Story 33. There is a phenomenon of people gathering collectively to watch adult entertainment for amusement. However, no individual watches adult entertainment in a communal setting. It is an extremely private activity. Story 34. That we are a class of people with special privileges. I know this will not be popular even here, but eventually people will start to acknowledge the nonsense this is built on. We have it worse by every measurable statistic. The gap is 6 times bigger than the biggest racial gap in America. Story 35. We are not good at expressing emotions. We know exactly what we feel, but we usually deal with it internally. Story 36. Men do not have feelings. Men are stoic. Men must be unwavering and carry the weight of responsibility without emotion. Be strong. You will be all right. Story 37. That men do not have emotions. Please, have you seen one lose Wi-Fi for 5 minutes? That is not rage. That is a full Shakespearean tragedy. Story 38. The idea that alpha males dominate the group is incorrect. You live with your mother, fear commitment, and your social circle consists of 3 online discussion threads and a protein shake. Story 39. We want many things, including but not limited to find a really cool stick the next time we go on a walk, to dig an enormous hole the next time we go to the beach, to hear someone we respect say, I am proud of you, to have more time in the day, to lose 10 pounds, to gain 10 pounds, just to name a few. Story 40. The idea that men are somehow worse than women is incorrect. Both men and women can behave poorly. There is nothing inherently worse about a man. Story 41. In America, the myth that the foreskin does not have any benefits has been repeated so often that even many doctors believe it. From restoring my foreskin, I can clearly see multiple benefits. It works better, it feels better, almost as if I was born to have one. Story 42. In the West, men are often considered the privileged gender. However, in reality, the situation is quite the opposite. Men face penalties and disadvantages simply for being men. Story 43. We do not appreciate a woman who is also interested in building wealth. I would only marry someone who shares the same values as me. Story 44. We need verbal affirmation that we are meeting your expectations. If we are not, please explain exactly why. Story 45. On a more lighthearted note than most of these, facial hair does not grow back thicker or darker after shaving. Story 46. All we think about is sex in relationships or marriage. I think of coming home from a tiring day and seeing my significant other waiting for me. I tell her about my day so that I can feel lighter. She also supports me by motivating me to start a better day ahead. Story 47. We are not all about to hit on you. In fact, most of us are not going to hit on you. Many of us socially exclude men who go around hitting on random women. Also, the men who do go around hitting on random women likely still will hit on you despite your do not hit on me behavior of choice. Most of the men who do not hit on you after you try not to be hit on were not going to hit on you to begin with. Also, common courtesy is not an attempted pickup. The rest of the world expects that from us. Story 48. Do all men only see women as sex objects and quickly fall in love with them? Honestly, this cliché is so overused. It becomes extremely annoying to do simple things like compliments or courteous gestures with no flirty intention, only for people to jump to conclusions like, you're attracted to her, or you're only doing that because she is attractive. Story 49. That we feel safe walking alone at night. I am not sure about others, but I have been threatened, sexually harassed, and creeped on enough that I avoid it altogether. Story 50. Making a sudden large purchase between the ages of 40 and 60 is often considered a midlife crisis. In some cases, sure. More likely, though, financially it was not a priority for a long time, and they finally reached a point where they could both afford and justify it. Story 51. Men cheat more than women. Every man I know has been cheated on multiple times and is faithful. Story 52. Blue balls is not real. Epididymal hypertension is real, but it is not what most men try to describe it as. If the pain is severe, they need to see a doctor. Story 53. That we cannot be friends with women. I genuinely miss having female friends like I did back in school. They were not people I ever wished to sleep with. I simply enjoyed having some female friends to talk to about different things. I had many deep conversations with women that I have never had with other male friends. Story 54. One myth I have encountered frequently is that all men are emotionally closed off or do not want to talk about their feelings. That is not true based on my experience. I grew up with a father who talked openly about his feelings. When I went to college, I found myself in a friend group where the men would sometimes have deep conversations, especially late at night while sitting around with a few drinks. It was not constant, but it was present, and it helped me through some difficult times. I believe the problem is that society conditions men to think being vulnerable is a sign of weakness. However, when given the space, most men I have met do want to open up. It is just that we do not always know when or how, especially if we never saw it modeled while growing up. Story 55. People say things like, because men are less emotionally minded than women, they are less subject to peer pressure, but that is not how it works. Many guys experience peer pressure to use drugs, drink alcohol, engage in sex, and make other poor decisions they would not have made otherwise. Especially with teenage and preteen boys, often boys become bullies to other children because they feel pressured to do so, rather than having an intrinsic urge to bully. Story 56. That only gay men and women can enjoy reality television shows. I am straight and happily married. Why cannot I enjoy Big Brother or Survivor? Story 57. When we compliment a woman, it is only because we want to have sex with them. We cannot be sexually assaulted. Story 58. Mine is that we do not wash our buttocks. That is not a male trait, that is a myth. It is a Western practice. Asians and Middle Easterners use water to clean after defecating, and they do not. Story 59. I'm glad people think the same thing. We want more than intimacy. We want to express our love to you without feeling attacked. Story 60. All we think about is sex. I have heard this many times over the years from my ex. Excuse me? Asking for it every 4 or 5 months when we have not had sex in 4 years is being obsessed. Story 61. That every man can have sex with any woman anywhere at any time. Many women feel that if she is giving typical indicators of interest and a man is not interested, he must be gay. However, most men do not understand what women consider obvious indicators of interest, and usually cannot tell that a woman is interested unless she tells them in words. All the nonverbal clues are still greatly overrated. Story 62. That we care about stretch marks on women. To quote Cat Williams, paraphrased, explaining the two possibilities men are aware of: either you were big and got small, or you were small and got big. Either way, we are having sex. Story 63. That we all want one thing. I do not want vaginas. No. A nice penis would be more to my liking. Story 64. That sex is the only thing that matters in our lives. I mean, yeah, sex is fun, but it is not even in my top 5. Story 65. Men do have feelings, but we were taught by society and other men that we are not allowed to show them in public or in front of women in general. If you want to have those feelings, do it by yourself at home, in your car, in the garage, or in the middle of nowhere. Story 66. Modern Western governments have never cared about the well-being of men or boys. In other words, these governments have rarely, if ever, gone out of their way to develop legislation, programs, or departments that support the well-being of men or boys directly. Well-being includes education, healthcare, life expectancy, mental health, and more. Story 67. Men have to pay for everything and cannot handle having a wife who makes more than they do. I know many men who wish their wife would just get any job that provides an income. Story 68. We are not all obsessed with cars or know how to fix them. I can barely change a tire, and I have met people who treat a check engine light like it is a suggestion. Story 69. That society is designed for you to compete and win to be successful by nearly any means. Most of us are suffering because of this now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.